Welcome to This Week in Business Risk, a podcast by Mission Grey, the leading provider of external intelligence for corporate decision making. I'm your host, Rwizi Rweizooba Ainomugisha, a proud Mission Grey Guild member and founder of the Wargaming Weekly newsletter. My guest today is Pekka Virkki, co-founder, editor-in-chief, and Guildmaster at Mission Grey. Pekka is also an accomplished geopolitics journalist / author. His newly published book is titled Autopsy of Post-Finlandization, The Roots of European Appeasement of Russia. Our conversation is going to focus on digging deeper into some of the insights in the June 2026 edition of the Mission Grey Guild newsletter, which you can download and read at missiongrey.com/insights. Pekka, welcome to the pod. Are you ready to get risky?
Yes, certainly. I have been listening all the previous these episodes and have been very happy for what I've been hearing. So it's a pleasure to be here.
I'm glad to hear that. Thank you. Thank you. So, Pekka, let's start with your origin story. What's your background and how exactly did you end up becoming a co-founder / editor-in-chief / guildmaster at Mission Grey?
So I would say that my story within Mission Grey goes back to um, 2022, more or less. It was something that happened which was globally significant, but especially significant in my region, in Europe, in Northern Europe, in Northeastern Europe, when Russia attacked Ukraine. And I had a friend called Jouko Ahvenainen, who is our chairman right now, very seasoned geopolitical analyst, but mostly startup guy who always, when he sees a problem, he wants to enforce some ways to be able to find the solutions. And in this case, the enforcement happened in the form of a new startup company.
Okay.
And we kind of found each other in a sense that we are both very generalistic people, not only not in the same fields completely, but Jouko has a degree in computer science and political science and economics. I'm more like focused on the political science and international security side. But I'm also interested in all these cutting edges, these overlaps between different fields, different academic fields, different business sectors, and so on. And we understood that after the Cold War, there was this idea that it's all free trade. It's all one world village, globalized world village. And now these dependencies that should have been uh, kind of bring people together and bring economies together, and the competition should have been in all in the global sphere. These dependencies are more and more being weaponized by different trade blocs, different actors, different even nation states, and so on. And we need a model to map these networks, to give companies, business actors, new risk management tools that haven't built to match this world and this emerging competition, which, of course, one of the most defining factors is the bipolar competition between the US and China, but that's certainly not the only one. So it is getting more complex, and that was our starting point. And then, of course, it came that clear that the so-called artificial intelligence hype became evident. Then we had this discussion whether we should go with the AI or not. And nowadays, of course, you AI tools, AI models as a very important part of our platform. But still,
Mm.
I was there before the AI, and our startup is found on on the idea that we provide solutions for a real problem. It's not one of those companies that have been founded simply with the idea that okay, there's AI, we have to find out whether we can apply it in this and that problem. But the AI layer came later, and I've been seeing all of this and more or less overseeing all of this, and it has been a very interesting journey, to say at least. And most recently, we have brought more and more this human element as well. So we are also using some human experts, consultants, analysts, journalists, some business actors, and so on to find out the weak signals that the machine may miss. And the idea is that we are more and more able to combine this human intelligence and machine-based intelligence and database intelligence to provide the most accurate uh, picture image on what is going on, and that's where Mission Grey Guild comes up. So
Okay.
I'm the person that is responsible for taking care of these networks, expanding our human resources beyond our employees and our co-founders and shareholders. We believe that we really and if you want to have this holistic image of what's going on, you will need this human expertise as well. And but you can always combine it with data sets, with AI, and so on. And so we are able to bring all of this to our customers, to our clients at once.
Okay. Well, I'm glad that your approach of adding a human layer to your AI solution has brought me to the Mission Grey Guild and brought me into the Mission Grey orbit because here we are. So getting into the Mission Grey Guild newsletter, um, the last edition, which was the 2026 edition, focused on 4 elections. Um, so one of the 4 elections you covered in that newsletter was Peru's, which I want to focus on because the result came down to a very slim margin of roughly 43,000 votes, and the loser Roberto Sanchez was alleging fraud. So as someone like you doing this kind of corporate intelligence work, how do you actually tell a real legitimacy crisis apart from political theater when a result gets contested like that?
Well, I wouldn't even put it fully that way. I would put it that there may be legitimacy crisis, and legitimacy crisis is a problem as such. So you cannot say, of course, that when a political system and trust is eroding, it's not necessarily like something you would wish for. But there are some states, there are some political communities, some business environments that are more resilient to this kind of institutional distrust towards the political leaders that are actually sitting there at the moment. But in these kind of environments, you have to distinguish whether it goes against all the institutions, all the national institutions, against all the enforcement, legal enforcement, all the system, or is it distrust toward these certain politicians? And in Peru, for example, we see that there is very polarized politics and very little small margins between different parties and their support. But at the same time, there is some confidence to, that even if the government is illegitimate, according to some, there will be some kind of functioning basis that the investors, citizens, all the actors that act in the and are present in that country can trust. And that's what distinguishes Peru from a full, let's say, banana republic. That
Mm.
even as there is this legitimate crisis, it doesn't mean that one cannot invest. One cannot mostly trust that they get their money back and their property is safeguarded and their investments are there and so on. And this is a fundamental distinction because if you don't have this insight in the this specific environment, that external environment in this and that country, you can so it can look like very similar situation in different places, but if you don't know the context, it's hard to understand that what this kind of instability, for example, actually means. And in this case, there has been, for example, one of the encouraging signals has been that the independence of the Peruvian central bank has been certainly maintained.
Mm.
Uh, and what we see, for example, in Russia now, right now, is more or less contradictory example. But if it seems that the political power still respects this kind of institutions issues, then it is encouraging. And certainly, from the world perspective, it will be very interesting to see that how are the central bank and executive power relations going to develop in the US, because I think that it may potentially have implications for several decades to come.
Okay, so let's double click on that because that kind of preempts my next question. So still on that article about Peru and the response you just gave, um, you seem to give the winner Keiko Fujimori's decision to keep um, central bank governor Julio Velarde in place, as you seem to treat it as a bigger confidence signal than her own platform as a conservative. So when you're sizing up a shaky new government that, let's say, has gone through such a contested election, with a very slim margin, um, you seem to put a lot more weight on did they keep the right people compared to what are they actually promising to do. Is this a correct assessment of your opinion, and two, why, if that's the case?
Well, I wouldn't say that I put even that much emphasis on who comes in and who goes out. But the most important thing is that there are certain limits with what you can do as a politician. So of course, policy matters, and of course, a politician can mix up their countries in many ways. Of course, they can create circumstances that are more favorable to economic growth and are more favorable to international business and so on. But in the end, especially when the institutions are in place, as I said, their power is more or less limited. And there are certain economic factors, and I would even say economic facts. There are limitations to how they can manage their budget. There are limitations to their actual physical, geographical territory. If they don't want to go to war, they have certain amount of rare earth minerals, this infrastructure, existing infrastructure. They have these and those logistic routes that they happen to have, and these are things that won't change when new government comes in. And quite often it is for a politician. the incentives are to exaggerate their influence, and you should always look at these material facts first. And uh, that's a bit different if you have a real rogue regime, for example, like in Venezuela. A couple of years ago, where actually there was this, well, let's say half or less than half serious attempt to take over parts of the neighboring country. So if you have this kind of ambitions, that you are actually going to uh, how to think whether a regime will grossly violate international rules, then it's a big. But with an average country that is not going to war to conquer new territory without any kind of legitimate basis or so on, there are usually quite clear facts and limits and boundaries within these governments have to play. And you should always, I'm just saying that you should always watch these boundaries first and define them before you make the analysis that they are going to do this and that. And what are the costs? Even in when it comes to things that they could, in fact, in principle, do within their national sovereignty. For example, taking over some government businesses. One should always consider that what are the actually the incentives in that sense. So if you start to, for example, socialize private companies of some sectors, it will certainly have implications to foreign investment, to foreign trade deals, and so on. And that's why most governments will probably avoid it, even if they have promised to their people that, okay, we will take over all the oil fields and so on. But when they actually start to calculate the costs, it's probably not worth it. So in that sense, international law, international trade agreements, institutional arrangements, they are more or less facts that have a huge impact on these decisions.
So, still on this topic of politicians' ambitions versus the continuity slash independence of key institutions. Earlier, you briefly mentioned that we might see that kind of battle play out in the US. I imagine you're talking about President Trump's issues with the Federal Reserve, and that this might have implications for decades going forward. Could you please tell me a bit more about that?
I'm just saying that in cultural sense, I wouldn't even say it's political, but it's like a cultural sense. If you cross some institutional boundaries, it will have an impact in the future. It will certainly create an incentive for the future politicians, for the future executive branches to carry out similar actions. But of course, when it comes to discussion about Trump's actions, I have to say that certainly there may also be some lack of understanding on how the U.S. institutions work. So I'm not downplaying the problem, but and the potential problem and impact. But I would just like to say that with every president there have been questions on whether they have exceeded their power, and with all the institutions, they are usually quite in a quite natural manner. They reach beyond their immediate level and clear power forces, and that's normal, especially in the U.S. system. But At the same time, there are traditions and there are boundaries that are usually uh, respected without different or like any kind of written law or
Mm.
even
The newsletter also talked about AI infrastructure as political risk. You write that social license is becoming as strategically important as computing power. What does actually earning that vital social license look like for an AI infrastructure developer beyond the usual community relations playbook?
Well, of course, all the time you bring physical infrastructure in the new places, in new environments. What happens around is a business risk that has to be taken into account. And it's not only whether the regulations are there, it's not only whether the economic conditions are there, it's not even only that the politicians are for you. But in the end, especially in democracies, politicians are dependent on the public opinion. And what we see with this kind of industry, we see big data centers being built and big energy facilities being built around them. And that's something that many people don't probably think about a lot. AI actually requires physical sites, physical energy, physical data centers to function. And when we bring these up, bring these in new environments around people, they will actually come with very recognizable problems, like any other industrial site. Like for example, water supply. Data centers require a lot of cooling water and the energy demand and so on. And it may bring like natural nature concerns, environmental concerns, and social concerns, and anything like that. And even if you have this deal done with local politicians and all the economic external factors, so that okay, we can carry this out and so on, you have to take into account the social factor because when this when the building starts to rise, the local communities will notice that okay, this is becoming something real, and in that case, many interesting things may happen because we know that especially in countries with strong tradition of the civil disobedience or civil activism. Uh, these kind of things are questions that can bring people to streets. They can bring people to re-elect their deputies in local and national parliaments and so on. And even if everything looks good at in on the paper, you should know that when it comes concrete, uh, uh, like and visible for the local population, you should be able to explain them why this is good for them if you want that it will go the end smoothly. And of course, this is largely this is PR, and this is just something that you have to be aware of before you take it too far. You have to integrate the local communities.
Mm. Okay. Um, let's move on to one of the hottest, topics in geopolitics right now. That's maritime choke points. In your recent interview with Masiku for the Diplomat, you compared Hormuz, Malacca, and the Baltic Sea as one category of risk. Are they really comparable, or does lumping them together kind of paper over differences that matter more than what they have in common? So, like, for example, how much of what Finland and the Baltic states have learned actually carries over to somewhere like Malacca versus being a uniquely Baltic thing?
So first, I have to say that there are in this article, in this interview, I have not only focused on the commonalities but also differences. And of course, these are different, completely different environments with different kind of significance for global economy, for international politics, international security. In the Baltic Sea, it's mostly about security and less about trade. But in Malacca, for example, should there be any disruptions, it would be very extremely uh, disastrous for global economy. And this is something that we actually saw a couple of years ago in the Suez Canal when this Ever Given or Evergreen, what was the name of the ship, got
Yes,
stuck.
evergreen.
And it showed that what these choke points can do. And now we are seeing the same in the larger uh, in the Hormuz Strait. And
Mm,
this is kind of because if you think about what has been coming back to sacred principles of the current world order or the world order that has existed at least 30 years, uh, it has been very important for Western countries. First, it was Britain that ruled the waves, as they say in the famous song. Then it was the United States that was the guarantor of free seas
mm,
and free trade, free sea logistics and ocean logistics. And Iran at the moment is attacking this principle, this very core principle of the US-led world order. And in this sense, although it's very catastrophical for the world economy as such, it's also direct attack to the idea of the Western-led dominated world order. And I'm saying that it's a Western dominated world order because these have been Western ideas, to be honest.
mm,
I go behind some kind of abstract rule-based international order and so on. Of course, these have been things that have been prioritized by the West. And
mm,
in this sense, the Baltic Sea, Malacca, especially potentially the potential on what may happen in Malacca and in the Baltic Sea have a very similar role in the global environment because we are coming to this basic question uh, whether we can limit uh, maritime trade, maritime logistics, and on what basis, and how does it link to security? Because, for example, in the Baltic Sea, if we look what has happened during the recent years, Russian related actors, the so-called shadow fleet that is trading Russian oil from the oil ports of the Baltic Sea elsewhere. Their fleet is very much uninsured. They are operating with very questionable equipment, and they have. It seems that they have. Um, well, I'm not going into details, but they have caused quite a damage, quite an economic damage
mm,
on the seabed as well, and it has had a huge impact on also data transfer and things like that, and the economic losses for the coastal states like Finland and Estonia and Sweden have been significant. And whether you can actually stop these kind of ships, whether you can onboard them, and whether they are actually military targets or whether they are civilian ships, and how should you actually react? That's something that the international law, I would say, won't give any precise answer. Okay, there are many issues that the international law won't give a precise answer. In a similar way, if some hostile actors would like to raise costs for those that are like having important logistical routes via Malacca. They might simply disturb. They don't have to attack. There doesn't have to be war. It doesn't have to be closed. But it is simply that they can disturb the logistics. They can disturb the actors that are there raising insurance premiums, bringing back to this kind of phenomena like piracy and so on. And how can you respond to them? It's a set of many I would say very relevant questions, and it will take time that when we see where the world goes, maybe in 20 to 30 years there will be a new set of rules and practices that regulate maritime trade and logistics. And then for companies that are somehow exposed to these risks, it's very important for them to know that what they are doing and to mitigate the impact in case the shit hits the fan. To be direct.
That's a direct way to put it. So, still on maritime choke points, if we can say that the Strait of Hormuz was this year's stress test, which choke point actually worries you as most likely to be the next one, say next year or 2 years from now, and why that one in particular?
Well, I think that the answer is quite obvious. Of course, when it comes to global significance, Malacca is the most important. And also what happens, what are the next moves by China during the next 2 to 3 years? There will be many factors and so on, but of course, if you think about the global economy, uh, uh, some that would happen in Malacca, especially combined with some sort of wider crisis in East Asia or Southeast Asia would be very destructive.
Well, let me push back a bit on that. So, if we can say that Malacca is arguably the most important, and doesn't that kind of in a way shield it from possibly being the most likely one to act up next? Isn't it like too big to fail, if I may use the term from the 2008 crisis?
I think that when it comes to global politics and warfare, there is no such thing as too big to fail. To be honest, it's of course there are big stakes, and many actors would certainly like to avoid going into that. But if you say too big to fail in the same sentence with global politics, just look at the two world wars. So
All right, then I concede on that. Let's move on to your latest book titled Autopsy of Post-Finlandization, the Roots of European Appeasement of Russia. So the word autopsy suggests that something is already over. Do you think that Europe has genuinely moved past the appeasement pattern that you describe in the book, or is it still happening just under a different name? And also, what exactly inspired you to write this book? Like, what was your light bulb moment?
so the point is it also comes down to 2022 and the Russian attack when my home country Finland decided to join NATO, and we had this very peculiar special relationship with Russia. Even although we joined the European Union in 1995, there was still this kind of peculiar bilateral idea that that we are somehow very close to Russia, and we want to engage with them, and this friendship policy. And it was never equal. It was during the Cold War. It kind of came from the necessity, and of course, when you were forced due to geopolitical reasons to consider this up and to approach Russia, then Soviet Union, with this appeasing policy, and so on. It was kind of we tried to make it as well as possible, and it was quite successful story, in fact, that we were able to um, maintain the core of the Finnish independence. But because it was, in a sense, successful, the problems of the policy line were never fully discussed. And in fact, Finland acted as some kind of, I would say, laboratory of influence makers for whole Europe. And the big idea of the Soviet Union, which was materialized in this concept by Mikhail Gorbachev, was this common European home from Lisbon to Vladivostok, in which you wouldn't need any kind of military alliances, and to get Americans out. And to be honest, from the Soviet perspective, of course, it was about Soviet domination. And what was the role of Finland? It was the role that the Russian strategic imaginary was meant to Western Europe as whole. After the NATO is like withdrew, or the Americans have withdrawn from Europe, and NATO is more or less inexistent. And someone has said that this Finlandization was the Europe policy of the KGB. And when it comes to the second title of my book, the Roots of European Appeasement in Russia, it doesn't actually implicate there are no such like it doesn't talk about Europe as such, but it is book about Finnish post-Finlandization, Finnish special relationship during the latest 30 years, but while keeping in mind that what Russia did in Finland was always more or less a laboratory on how it wanted to act in Europe in a wider sense. And if we go back to the, for example, things like Nord Stream, the gas, it was actually initiative that Russia advanced via its Finnish connections, and the original company that then developed into Nord Stream was actually a cooperative company between Finnish Neste and Russian Gazprom. And the Finnish role in bringing such initiatives to Europe, although Finland is a small country, 5 million inhabitants, so it's not like we can just go and to Brussels and say that go on with this, or that we have that much voting power. That's not what I'm claiming. But especially before Malta and Cyprus were brought in the European Union in 2004, Finland was one of the most important, probably the most important gateway of Russian oligarchs to European Union as well. And this set of influence, how Russia uses these networks to increase its presence in Europe, is something that many authoritarian actors do, but Russia is very good in it. And when examining the case of Finland, I would say brings it brings the holistic nature of these influence efforts in a very illustrative way, and that's the reason that I think that this book that was originally published for Finnish audience in a rather popular tone in 2023. It will also be relevant to wider European audiences, and it has been also edited. So it has been. I have removed some parts of that are more related to domestic politics and so on, and emphasize those that are more internationally relevant. So that was kind of the idea. And of course, we come back to this debate quite soon. Every week there are some ideas that okay, Europe should go and back to engage and negotiate with Russia. Okay, then if we go back there, then are we starting the energy trade again? And what if we do that? Are these Russian networks that Nord Stream enforced? Let's put it this way: are they coming back? Are we just going back to the? I wouldn't call it Finlandization or even post-Finlandization, but maybe federalization or Merkelization. Are we just going back there? Well, that's let's see.
Okay. I want to double click on, domestic politics in Finland. For me, as an African, living here in Uganda, I barely know anything about, what exactly happens in Finland. So, and I understand from what you've told me that there's been this shift in, Finland's foreign policy as far as Russia goes, joining NATO and all that. So what has been the effect of that on local politics in Finland? Like, have some political actors suffered from that change? Have others gained from it? What exactly happened within Finnish politics for that foreign policy change to happen?
Well, of course, when this kind of global shift happens and country aligns itself again, of course there are politicians that suffer, but I would say that it was very consensual in the end. When Russia attacked Ukraine, it was basically whole political elite, all the parties agreed that okay, now we have to join NATO to secure our independence and in the midterm and in the long term, and it was kind of consensual. So there was not that much direct political fight over that. But of course, the circumstances changed, and I would say that during the latest 3 years, it has favored political right-wing or center-right actors. But at the moment, it seems that we are going back, and there will be probably a left-wing government or center-left government led by Social Democrats after the next election. So that's at least something that the polls would suggest. But going beyond Finland, what I find more important and something that even has some global importance is that the Finnish NATO membership also basically caused Swedish NATO membership, because between Finland and Sweden there is this peculiar sense of brotherhood and like loyalty in security policy, and that's tradition that goes back to the Cold War era. Although the positions of Finland and Sweden were quite different, there was this idea that we have to coordinate our solutions. And when Finland left her NATO application, Sweden came at the same time, and it's of course for Sweden that this its very brand was this non-aligned, peaceful humanitarian superpower and so on. This negotiation, peace mediation, and so on. It was actually quite a hard bit for Swedes. Also, it was due to geopolitical circumstances. It was more or less they were forced to do it, because in case they didn't, they would have been left without the Article 5, and there are, for example, some islands in the Baltic Sea that could be potentially threatened by the Russian forces. and it would leave kind of gray zone there. So Sweden came in at the same time. And what happened when Sweden and Finland came in at the same time? First of all, this idea of Finlandization of whole Europe, let's put it this way, kind of lost its power. As an idea, it lost its power. And as Joe Biden said when Finland joined NATO, that actually Vladimir Putin wanted to Finlandize NATO. That was actually an attempt to Finlandize NATO when he threatened that okay, if you don't withdraw your troops from Poland and elsewhere, then you will be forced. I will attack Ukraine, and so on. So that was an attempt of Finlandization, and instead Putin lost strategically. He actually Finlandized, NATOized Finland, and also NATOized Sweden. So that was kind of a very strategic response to the idea that what Putin tried to achieve. And on the other hand, what is very important from the EU perspective, from the regional perspective, but even to some extent global perspective, that all the Nordic countries and Baltic states are at the moment NATO members, and most of them are also EU members. And there is very, I would say, widespread consensus of this idea of this cultural proximity that this Nordic Baltic group, like 5+3, is emerging as an actor that speaks with one voice, that is very supportive to Ukraine, that has mostly comparable policy lines in everything else as well, when it comes to international policy and trade policy and so on. And certainly we won't see anything like Nordic states under one flag, or like we are not going to see any kind of federal government of Nordic Baltic states and so on. But what is the role of the Baltic Sea countries, and especially this Nordic Baltic group? It is emerging as quite economically and politically and even militarily significant grouping of countries that has real political influence as such. And that's something that was caused by the Finnish and Swedish NATO membership.
Okay, you say this Nordic Baltic group is referred to as 5+3?
Yeah.
Could you tell me more about why 5+3? What exactly does that mean?
So it means it refers to the traditional understanding that the Nordic countries, often referred to as Scandinavia in international circles, but actually the accurate concept is Nordic countries. Consists of Sweden, Norway, Finland, that used to be a part of Swedish Empire for a long time, and Denmark and Iceland. And this is kind of the Viking tradition areas in modern Europe. Although Finnish language is not related to the other, but still we have this idea that we are part of the same group in cultural sense and religious sense and political sense and so on. And the three Baltic states that were all occupied by the Soviet Union during the Cold War, but have, in a sense, very Western-oriented history in general, and that are traditionally part of Europe. Lithuania has been actually a great power as such during the several hundreds of years, especially in union with Poland and then Latvia and Estonia. These three Baltic states are small, and they are former Soviet occupied countries. But if you look on the rankings at the moment, they are growing very fast. They have stable economies, stable institutional environments. They are becoming more or less Nordic, I would say. And the only thing that threatens this region in a longer term, I would say, is Russia. And of course, especially in the Baltic states, because in Russian imaginary, you can even see this idea that it was the Baltic states that brought Soviet Union down, because it's like to leave. And these imperial grievances that Putin has over his neighbors, they are very much directed to these three rather small countries. And they are also militarily, to some extent, vulnerable because they are geographically a bit isolated. So there are almost every day there are some stories that Putin. Well, he's doing certainly nasty things along European ports everywhere, from Norway to Romania. So I wouldn't even ask whether he will attack, because he has already attacked. Yesterday, when we record this, it was yesterday when Romanians had to shoot down one maritime drone near Kosovo port that was actually attacking energy infrastructure, and it was Russian. So I wouldn't even we used to call this hybrid war, but I'm not sure whether it's hybrid anymore. So
it's really testing the limits of hybrid.
Yeah, that's also one of those issues that I think that are still conceptually underdeveloped. So if you go strictly academic discussion, I believe that like those new maritime rules within the next 20 to 30 years, we may have a set of hybrid on this hybrid influence and hybrid rules and definitions, and how you can retaliate. They might become more clear in the international law and regulations. And of course, we see it elsewhere as well. We see this immigration policy used as, or immigration flows used as a political tool, like there has been discussion in Southern Europe about this situation in Ceuta and Melilla, whether there were some ambitions to pressure Spain to do something. Okay, it seems at the moment that we don't know, but still, and these kind of tools are different actors learn them, and this comes back to the idea that what used to bring us together, and what we thought that was peaceful action and peaceful phenomena, they are actually used to weaponize against other countries, other actors.
Yeah. Now, Pekka, the title of the podcast is This Week in Business Risk. So, say I'm a risk manager at a European auto manufacturer. What should I be paying attention to over the next 7 days? What about the next 30 days? And let's say 90 days as well.
So, of course, to respond this question, I used the Mission Gray Decision Advisor platform and ask them to tell me what are the most important, most likely emerging risks within these three
time frames.
Yeah, and it says that during the next 30 days, it actually comes to North America, and there is a U.S.-Canada trade deal under negotiation, and it's possible that if the negotiation fail, in fact, it is possible that European car manufacturing products can have lower effective duties than the Canadian ones. And we are talking about this flat 15% tariff that is for European imports at the moment, but it's possible that the Canadians will have the same. But with It may require some North American parts in them or even US parts in them to achieve this. And this primary risk, and as I always have to emphasize, this is also an opportunity. If you look this from the perspective of European risk management, you shouldn't only think about negative possibilities, but this is, as mentioned, it's possible that European products are actually becoming stronger in the market due to this disruption. And if you would like to prepare, I would say that do some scenario planning within this idea. Well, within 60 days, the same goes with Mexicans. Quite similar negotiations with Mexico. And of course, these are all interconnected because North American trade bloc has usually wanted to maintain as one, but still. In November, there are several risks that there will be a timely overlap. First of all, is the election risk. Although I said that the policy is usually not that important as maybe the execution capacity and activity as such, the US midterm elections will affect certainly the global markets everywhere. There's also some new European regulations that should be noticed, and in fact, there is this Chinese deadline, as I mentioned about weaponizing these flows. China has been very keen to use its rare earth materials in weaponization, and some kind of deadline for them is approaching during this period. And whether China will decide to limit its exports of these rare earths, that may have a very significant, that may be very significant in the automotive industry as well. Then that's something that should be taken into account. And this is something that when you recognize these risks, there are also some others, second and third tier risks. You could put them in the portfolio and scenario planning, and then watch and adapt as the situation goes on. So it's always simply important that you have these models and you react when you notice something that has to be reacted.
Okay. So risk managers at European auto manufacturers should head over to Mission Grey and tinker around with the software. Is that a good summary?
Yeah, certainly. Because to be honest, automotive industry is not my specialty. But even I can say this much based on our pool with quite a short work. And to be added, I have to say that of course we have also those tools for scenario planning and monitoring and making direct reports from different perspectives. But even when I just put here, like I wrote, if I were an automotive industry leader, what are the most important potential risk factors to take into account during the next 30 days, 60 days, and 90 days? In each analysis, make sure to examine second and third tier effects and unknown unknowns. So this is basically when I get a fully sourced report about these potential things that are going to have an impact. That if it is able to recognize and it is able to or considers to be the most important. But of course, this is limited. But what I have to emphasize that this is very much source based and based on reliable sources as well. So our AI doesn't hallucinate. It's very well built in that sense also, and it is used, it is constructed to respond to these kind of needs. So what I also get here, not just a list of problems, but a list of opportunities and a list of further questions. So after I've received this response, it recommends me to make a North American trade scenario modeling and like take into account what different actors could do in different circumstances, or audit China supply chain vulnerability. So if you tell about your own situation here, it will identify those choke points and potential problems with when it comes to rare earths or battery cells or magnets, power electronics, and gives further recommendations on how to prepare before this restriction deadline, which happens to be actually here. I can see November 10. So that's when China should decide about the further restriction that they impose them. So it gives this kind of information, and also you can basically just go on if you're interested in further details and these risk management models. It is actually able to build them for you.
Okay, that's great. That's great. Now as we wrap up, I understand the next Mission Grey Guild newsletter is due to be published very soon. What can we expect in the next edition? Do you have any juicy sneak peeks you can share with us now?
Not sure whether they are juicy, but I hope that it will be informative as the previous ones have been. Many people may recognize the classic of economics, The Wealth of Nations by Adam Smith. So our next newsletter issue will be called The Health of Nations. And the idea, it will be a cover, actually, it will be July, August combined newsletter issue for the whole summer, a double issue. And it will focus on populations, their health, human resources from the wider perspective than you think traditionally as a human resource expert. So how can you actually how do these human elements, population elements, health care, but also like demographics in general affect investment decisions, long-term business continuity, and how can you treat these human factors as an external issue as well? It's not only internal company issue, but if you, for example, want to invest a manufacturing site into somewhere, you are probably interested in if you want it to be there for the next 100 years. You are probably interested in how the population will develop. What is the potential? Do you need employees from elsewhere? What are going to be the economic prospects, and how are they going to interplay with these human factors? Let's put it this way. And we are bringing this all into one newsletter.
Okay, the health of nations. That sounds interesting. I can't wait to see. And for our listeners, you can download and read all the previous editions of the Mission Grey Guild newsletter at missiongrey.com/insights. Now, Pekka, before
I would like to just add that this newsletter is very much based on our human human layer as well.
Mm,
So it is really a guild newsletter. It's not a Mission Grey newsletter as such.
mm,
But we are asking our guild members to contribute, and even if there may not be names visible, we are for each issue we take this poll, we take insights and ideas from the guild members, and then we combine them and bring those insights into newsletter. So it's not something that we just produce. One of us will write this nice article about this, nor do we just put it into AI and then let's see that what they say about this our own product. It is a human machine combined analysis edited by me and collectively produced by the whole guild. So
yes.
in that sense, it's also very, I would say, insightful. You can always check our guild members and their backgrounds from the Mission Grey website, and I would say that we have quite impressive people there.
Yes, I can attest to that. If I may toot my own horn as a as a proud guild member, and yes, I do remember responding to that poll recently. So I can't wait to see the insights that came from my contribution and everyone else. Now, Pekka, before I let you go, as you know, with the tradition of this podcast, we have to do a lightning round. So, are you ready for the lightning round?
Yes, certainly.
Okay, number one, what book or article have you read and enjoyed recently?
Actually, I enjoyed reading one Mission Grey analysis of the Russian banking system and its relations to wild berries strikes that Ukraine has carried out recently.
Mm,
Because it is, of course, I found many articles based on this Mission Grey analysis, and they were all read worthy. But it was able to combine in a very interesting way different trends that you couldn't find in any of these articles as such. And it was able to explain dependencies that are related to ethnic and local, like this clan rivalries and the Russian banking system and political power that I
mm.
hadn't understood without this tool at all. And I have to say that when I read that analysis, I understood the Ukrainian very much better because
Mm,
if you can simultaneously strike against military targets, against political power,
mm,
against the banking system, and even do it in a way that may provoke intra-elite confrontations and even some ethnic northern Caucasus, which is a very important region for Russia and very strategic region, and kind of the legitimator of Putin's power. Uh, it gave me otherwise. Maybe I'll write an own article about that.
yeah, that sounds like a very interesting analysis. You should definitely share it with us sometime soon. Last question. What is the riskiest meal or drink you have ever had?
I would say that the riskiest drink or meal I've ever had, it's every time that in Northern Europe I go to certain restaurants, it's a risk. Because I love Thai food, I love Chinese food, and especially Southeast Asian food in
Mm,
general. And the idea is that in most cases, uh, people from that have established these restaurants here, they have adapted to local taste. And when
mm.
they say that something is spicy, it actually means that it is spicy for a Finn or for a Northern European. But when there are some chefs, some cooks that have actually used the word spicy in the context of their own culture of origin. And it's always when you cannot know in advance which one it is. I'm quite good in local sense to eat spicy food, but when it's spicy for a Malaysian or for a Thai people, Thai person, then it's a bit risky because it affects your body without going to detail. So I would say that this is one illustrative example of external intelligence as well. That you should be always aware of the cultural context.
You should do your cultural research before asking for a certain meal.
Yeah, exactly.
That's interesting. Thank you very much, Pekka. This has been a very insightful conversation for me, learning about Europe and geopolitics, maritime choke points. I learned about what exactly 5+3 means, and I look forward to the next newsletter. Thank you very much.
Thank you. It was a pleasure. Bye.
And thank you to our listeners. This has been episode 4 of This Week in Business Risk, a podcast by Mission Gray, the leading provider of external intelligence for corporate decision making. With Mission Gray, you can see external changes early, test decisions under real world scenarios, and most importantly, act before your competitors. So if your company is operating in shipping, aviation, manufacturing, mining, banking, insurance, investment, real estate, wealth and asset management, Mission Gray is the only tool you need to understand what is happening outside your company and what it means for your decisions. So, are you a risk manager or strategy officer looking to make faster decisions under uncertainty or identify risks and opportunities earlier? Book your demo today at missiongray.com to see how our cutting-edge AI-powered software can help you turn risk management into competitive advantage. After you're satisfied with the demo, you can use Stripe code Rwizi to get a monthly $100 discount on your Mission Gray subscription. That's RWIZI, Rwizi, for a monthly $100 discount on your Mission Gray subscription at missiongray.com. Thank you for listening once again. Until next time, I remain yours in risk, Rwizi.